September 15th. Welcome to the Commission on Sustainability, everyone. Why don't we do a roll call first? And maybe we'll start with Tony up there. We'll just go around the whole room.
Tony Lopez, the City Senior Park Planner.
Great.
Clove Galilee, Project Support Assistant.
Hi, David Pettit, Commission Member.
Dean Kubani, Commission Chair.
Rob Lempert, Commission Member. Rob Lempert, Commission Member.
Susan Mearns, Commission Member.
Judy Abdo, not a member of the commission.
And Ashley's here.
And
just in
Ginger,
time.
who
And
is
Ginger.
also not a member.
Good. Ashley, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ashley, member.
All right. And other folks in the back?
Jonathan Bajor, Great Park Coalition.
Great.
Tricia Crane, Northeast Neighbors.
Hannah Leshner, Karen, and Northeast Neighbors board member.
Great. And I think that's...
Jimmy, I'm your production assistant, whatever. And it's a great presentation. This will be my second time to watch it. And did you say that you'll be at the planning commission meeting? I'll get it 3 times.
Okay.
Great.
You get to ask all the questions.
No, I'll be in the control room, so you won't be able to see me there.
Keep your dog in order over there, Judy. Okay, so we're going to start with public input on non-agenda items. So this is public input permitted only on items not on the agenda within the subject matter of the jurisdictional of this group. And we can't take any action on any items that people speak on under this. Does anyone have any public input? Seeing none. We'll move on to our next public input, which is public input on special agenda items, closed session, consent calendar. We don't have any special agenda items. Consent calendar is just our approval of the minutes.
This also includes continued items.
And continued items. Okay, so anybody who wants to speak on our main item of the night, which is the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan update, now is your time to speak. Yeah.
Press the, and make sure it's blue and then say your name, please.
My name is Hannah Leshner. My name is Hannah Leshner. 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 Okay, I'll try to be brief. I've already sent a letter, but I just want to start by thanking the commission and city staff for everything that you guys have done, not only recently for the vision plan, but also over your years of service to make our city sustainable and livable. You're asked tonight, among other things, to take up a conversation that's been taking place with various bodies and commissions, and that is what role, if any, does plastic grass have in our city going forward? This is a topic you may have heard a little bit about recently. You may have already been aware of the negative climate impacts of turf, or you might be just finding out along with some of us. We were also unaware, and we believed industry talking points about how it saved water or reduced emissions from mowing, but that was before the full picture became clear. The science is clear now. Synthetic turf is not the sustainable choice. And that clarity puts you in actually an enviable position tonight. You have the power to hold the line for climate. This decision allows you to affirm the city's own park's vision of city as habitat, a vision of a nourishing, living, breathing, resilient city. Installing plastic grass is the direct opposite of that vision. It's the very definition of anti-habitat. It's a choice for a disposable, fossil fuel-powered future that creates blistering heat islands and destroys living soil. The right choice, the tool that actually helps us build a city as a habitat, is to deploy regenerative, organically managed natural grass fields. This is the moment for your leadership as the Sustainability Commission. Champion the city's stated vision. Your colleagues at the Field Sports Advisory Committee have already said they prefer natural grass. So we're not taking anything away from anybody. We're giving them what they want by choosing natural grass. So I'm asking you to build on their work and have a direct and unequivocal recommendation to the City Council to phase out all existing synthetic turf and prohibit any new installations on public land. Choose the future you have already envisioned. Choose city as habitat. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Is this again?
All right.
My name's Jonathan Bijur, Bijur. I'm the Executive Director of Rediscover Center, which is a partner to the the Office of Sustainability and the Environment in Public Outreach and Education. I'm also the head of the Great Park Coalition's Creative Play Working Group, advocating for creative play opportunities and educational opportunities as that intersects with plans for the park and any other great park at Santa Monica Airport and any other opportunities within the city of Santa Monica to combine sustainability and education, ideally through play. And I'm here to also comment towards the vision and the recommendations that you'll be making to the Planning Commission and City Council about how sustainability intersects with our parks. And a key element of that has certainly some aspect in this vision and could be even stronger is the educational aspect. How do we get more kids outside? How do we get kids into the parks? And when they get there, what do they do? That helps them connect with nature, and through that to connect with a sense of sustainability that they can take into their entire lives. So lots of ideas for that are out there, lots of great ideas in here already. And just one that I want to push because I loved it so much as a kid, and some of you might as well, is just trees that you can climb in. An element that is currently missing from our parks, but is in our city code. There is the potential for climbing trees, but not something that's currently there. So it's a great way to connect kids to trees, to nature, physically, and then emotionally, and they'll carry that with them into voting age and beyond as we make decisions as a community together. So, thanks.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. Any others? Okay, well, thank you for the public input, and I'm sure all the commissioners saw the several letters that we received from members of the community regarding the presentation tonight, and those are all archived. I certainly have them all, if anyone hasn't seen them. So we've gotten a lot of public input from folks, mostly expressing support for eliminating artificial turf. So let's move on to our consent calendar. One item is approval of the minutes from August 17th, 2025. Would anyone like to move approval? David moved. Ashley seconds. Is there any discussion? I just noted to Clove there was a couple of typos of people's names, including Judy's late name. So now she has your proper spelling, so you're good? Yeah. So all in favor? Aye. All right, that passes unanimously. And now we are moving on to our main item. You got here just in time, Alex. The 2025 Parks and Recreation Vision Plan Update. Tony, take it away.
There we go. Thank you, commissioners, for having me tonight. Again, my name is Tony Lopez. I'm the city's senior park planner within the Public Works Department. Today, I will be going over a brief presentation on the update to the Parks and Recreation, what was formerly known as the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which is now the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan. So in short, we did it. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan update began in 2018 to address the lifespan of the city's 1997 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. That is our last Parks and Recreation Master Plan. It's almost 30 years old now, and these documents are typically 20 to 25-year documents. 7 years later, we're here to discuss the future of the park network. As we're moving forward, we're calling this the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan. Again, this process for this particular update started in 2018. There was several outreach opportunities back in 2018 and 2019. The intent back then was to have a draft ready in 2019. There were several comments received by the Recreation and Parks Commission Ad Hoc Committee, at which point city staff in late 2019, early 2020 took those comments and started to create a new 2020 draft. That particular draft, the 2020 draft, was set to be presented to the Rec and Parks Commission in March of 2020, literally the week the pandemic hit. Unfortunately, the pandemic paused the project and eventually shelved it as there was some reorganization of the division and there was no longer a city senior park planner in the city until April 2024, when I came on board with the specific mission to finish out the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan. So who uses the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan? The community uses the vision plan to identify open space opportunities that exist within their neighborhoods. Planners use it to evaluate the potential to amplify complete neighborhoods. Architects and consultants use it to create comprehensive design solutions that integrate and do not ignore the benefits of open space. And boards and commissions use the vision plan to evaluate and calibrate the impacts of development on open space. I know many of you know that the city is continuing to grow, and it's trending so much that our parks aren't growing fast enough or in concert with that growth. So the amount of park space that we need in the city is becoming more and more vital. When we started the vision plan update again in 2024, prior to the beginning of that effort, I took it upon myself to read all of the reports, the plans, the initiatives within the city. There was dozens and dozens, but that helped set up how we approach this vision plan update. And when we started the first ad hoc Rec and Park Commission cadence of meetings to talk about this update, we really wanted to focus on user friendliness. Previous drafts were very complex and didn't really give the opportunity for an actionable plan. It was about narratives about what we can do, but no real approach to how we get there. So when it came down to the structure, we really wanted to be deliberate about stating the vision, creating a set of actions, and then describing how we can implement those actions based on different funding opportunities and strategies, and then utilizing an appendix to support those recommendations and how we get there. So with that, what is the 2025 vision? In the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan, you'll notice a more robust narrative associated with the vision, but in short, the vision is city as habitat. The 1997 Parks and Recreation Master Plan vision was city as park, so this takes us one step further. City as habitat is a vision for nourishing habitat for people, plants, animals, and program, continuing the city's commitment in striving to prevent harm to the natural environment and human health. A vision that addresses community open space need through acquisition, expansion, and improvements, enhancing resilience and reinforcing sustainability initiatives. Some of the goals in short: enable open space to grow with the city, position the city to respond quickly and responsibly to opportunities to enhance our parks as settings for habitat, act in support of water self-sufficiency, zero waste, and carbon neutrality, maintain open dialogue with the community on nature advocacy, and reaffirm the Sustainable Rights Ordinance. I'd like to give this little bit of a network refresher. Coming out of the study of all the various plans and initiatives, I noticed that there was a lot of different information out there because it was a process of different reports being created at different times. And so at one point in time, there was this many acres, there was this many parks, there was this type of bike network. So what we really wanted this plan to do was be a hub for all the information with respect to parks in 2025. We wanted it to be, again, user-friendly, so anyone in the community can look at this document and say, oh, I live in this neighborhood, I want to know what's there, I want to know where we stand, because when I speak to this idea of reacting responsibly, that has to do with grants and opportunities to fund our parks. We are not the only ones who can apply for grants. Community groups, 501c3s, anyone within the city can apply for grants, and this plan will act as the ability to kind of help guide them into how they craft the narrative associated with those grants. In short, our network has about 144 park acres. That equates to about 1.55 park acres per 1,000 residents. Now, something to consider is that our 2020 census data has City of Santa Monica at about 93,000 people. Based on our city's website, we receive about a daytime population about 250,000. So when it comes to our park acreage and how we are classified in terms of our need with the county, it looks at our population. It doesn't consider all the influx of people that come into our city, utilize our parks, take advantage of our programs, and create that regional community. So when it comes to the county average, 3.3 acres per 1,000 is the average when you take in all the cities within LA County. The 2016 countywide assessment defined Santa Monica as moderate in terms of park need. Now, that classification is based not only on acreage, but distance to parks and population. But when it comes to how we tell the story about our park need, it's important to consider that a lot of our neighborhoods within Santa Monica are high or very high need when it comes to park need. In 2022, the county conducted a Needs Assessment Plus, which looked a little bit more closely at rural and regional recreation need. Within Santa Monica, there's a few areas that are a one indicator based on that assessment for regional recreation need, most specifically the area around Memorial Park. So something we've been looking at was this idea of forward from 144. This vision champions increased biodiversity, urban forests, methods to combat climate change, open space to serve growing need, educational, cultural, recreation, and art spaces, and supporting program through acquisition, expansion, improvements, and partnerships. This is an example of what you'll see in Chapter 1, Vision and Network. This takes into account all of the parks within our system, all 30 of them. And it also lists along the top there all of the amenities that currently exist in our network. The colors green and yellow indicate amenities that are at that location. Yellow represents amenities that currently exist in our network that can be accommodated if we wanted to integrate them in our parks. Because one thing to consider is that we don't have a lot more opportunities to expand. So we have to start looking and thinking responsibly about how we can add more amenities to different parks if we want to do that. Because again, we have to consider our parks have an identity. We want to amplify that identity without kind of taking it all away, because we recognize that parks are a part of the community's identity as a whole. In 2018 and 2019 outreach, there was almost 2,000 participants in what that original master plan vision was going to be. When we regrouped as a committee dedicated to this update, we realized that there was a missing component in that outreach. And that's why we started the 2025 Community Recreation and Arts Needs Assessment. And that looked deliberately at what our level of service was as a city. It really evaluated our park inventory against our population, against National Rec and Park Association averages in terms of amount of amenities per 1,000 or so residents, to figure out how many of a particular amenity we needed to address our level of service, how many park acres we needed to address a particular level of service. And it's important to note that I cannot define that for this plan. That is what the community needs to do, and why we're going through this outreach, to help understand what is the right amount of acreage that we want to target for the next 20 to 25 years. That recreation and arts survey let us know that 96% of respondents visit a parks, arts, or recreation facility within the city in a typical year. The national average is 81%. 49% of respondents participate in a city program or event in a typical year. The national average is 36%. What this tells us is that the community loves the parks, they love the program that comes out of them, and it only tells us that we need to amplify that even more. Some of the top priorities out of that analysis: walking loops and trails, community parks, large regional parks, neighborhood parks, an aquatics facility, pocket parks, and community gardens were some of the top 10 elements of the amenities that we need to really focus on when we move forward. So the question before us today: in 1997, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan recommended a targeted growth of park acreage from 112.7 acres to a range of 143.8 to 170 acres. In that plan, they established an acreage goal. At 144, we just went over that mark. So what goal does the community want to establish for this plan related to the future growth of the City of Santa Monica's park acreage and park amenities? Again, I just want to go over some considerations when thinking about that number. Again, City of Santa Monica is at 1.55 park acres per 1,000 resident. The county average, again, the average is 3.3 acres per 1,000. It's not a recommendation by the county, it's just a data-driven average. Common planning standard is about 5 acres per 1,000 resident. And in 2025, the National Rec and Parks Association recommended for a city of 100,000 to approximately 250,000, 6 to 10 park acres per 1,000. So another element to consider is that the county does not count beach acreage because not every city within the county has a beach. The NRPA does count beach acreage. So when thinking about that average of 6 to 10 and balancing that with how the county calculates acreage, thinking about the beach as kind of a back pocket, if we get to a certain amount for a city and a county average, and then we add in the beach acreage, we might get somewhere in that sweet spot of 6 to 10. Something the NRPA notes is that park and recreation agencies are as diverse as the communities they serve. What works well for one agency may not be the best for all. And so what that tells us is that we need to continue to have these dialogues about our parks and recreation and programs that we offer, because we have to understand where our parks are going, because what might be a trend now might not be a trend later, but it might prove to be a great trend, and we need to may have to recalibrate our efforts to respond accordingly. Now again, you might have noticed this in the appendix. This was a baseline way to figure out where we stand in terms of our need. We had just included what the 3.3 county average was because we just needed some kind of a target to understand what our need is. Again, just to meet the average, we need an additional 134 park acres to our 144. That's in addition to. To meet our 5-year projected population growth, we need 165 acres. So something to consider is that we want to target a number beyond the foreseeable future that aligns with the city's priorities and initiatives. And what I mean by foreseeable future, I think I was here with one of our other projects, the airport conversion project. I know many of you know also of the Memorial Park expansion project that's currently underway. Those are foreseeable projects. Those are in planning, those are in design, and we can probably see some aspect of them in our lifetime. But when it comes to a 20 to 25-year vision, we want to think, I would think that the city of Santa Monica wants to go beyond what the average is. And we want to target something beyond that, because foreseeable future means that we might be able to hit that county average. But what happens after that point? Do we stop? We want to be able to benchmark beyond that so that we can meet those foreseeable goals and then just keep going. Again, what does this all mean? The responsibility doesn't end in 2025. The reason for this being an actionable plan with recommendations in them is that rather than create a plan and just say, we did a plan and there it is, actionable recommendations within this plan means that myself, city staff, this is a continuing dialogue. This is about establishing recommendations and updating commissions and boards on this is that particular item within the vision plan. This is how we're trying to work towards that. Here's where we currently stand. So that there's always some way of checks and balances and accountability associated with the plan. Again, so it's not just a document that we just read and forget about. It also establishes a sense of accountability with designers and consultants who are working with the city, because this plan, the only plan that exists is from 1997. Since then, it's been about 30 years. We need a plan that we can literally say, here's the vision plan for the future of our park system. In the plan, you'll notice that there are references to supporting documents. That means that you look at this vision plan and it points to a document within the city that also has information about not only the parks, but also our whole city. So it really proves that we're able to say it's not just about parks, but it's also about how parks can be a setting to implement all these other initiatives. So how to realize the vision? The vision plan itself is set up on 8 principles, validated by 5 strategies, and supported by 32 overall actions. Those 8 principles are nourish existing parks and park facilities, expand new parkland and open space, raise new park facilities, ideate Santa Monica State Beach, connect open space in the community, gather recreation and arts programming, sustain parks and facilities sustainability and maintenance, and support funding and meaningful partnerships. The 5 strategies were pulled from the original 2018 and 19 outreach. Those 5 strategies are strengthen access to parks, facilities, and the beach, rethink streets with park potential, foster social interaction, optimize existing parks and beach experiences, and create new parkland. So within each chapter of the actions, you'll notice that these 5 strategies are reiterated and how they correlate with those particular principles. I know I don't expect you to be able to read all this, but this just demonstrates at the beginning of the actions chapter, there are those 8 principles with those 32 supporting actions. And what you'll see here on the right is generally how that chapter is set up. An action is defined, and it is supported by a narrative that summarizes what that action is. And you'll see a list underneath that narrative of actionable recommendations with a little bit of a checkbox next to it. Those recommendations are, again, those actions that myself, city staff, will be continuing to develop as we move forward in this vision plan to, again, create that system of checks and balances and accountability in terms of this plan. I pulled some actions out of the vision plan for today's discussion that might be of interest to this particular commission. So I'm just going to go through those just to highlight particular actions. This is just a few that pertain to this commission. So I would encourage a nice read of, I know it's a long document, but we try to make it easy to read. Action 7.1, build upon city sustainability initiatives. That narrative reads, Santa Monica's Climate Action and Adaptation Plan lays out a framework for enhancing the city's resilience to climate change through 4 sectors: climate-ready community, water self-sufficiency, coastal flooding preparedness, and low-carbon food and ecosystems. This plan's ability to complement actions outlined in the CAP and Sustainable City Plan demonstrate the city's commitment to preventing harm to the natural environment and human health and benefiting the social and economic well-being of the community. You'll see here underneath that particular action are recommendations associated with each of those 4 elements. So I won't read all these, but you'll see 7.1.1 climate ready community that has 3 particular recommendations for actions to help support that through parks. 7.1.2 water self-sufficiency, 7.1.3 coastal flooding preparedness, and 7.1.4 low carbon food and ecosystems. These recommendations below that are different from what's in the CAP and Sustainable City Plan. These are new initiatives that build upon those recommendations and are specific to parks and open spaces. The vision itself, again, in the more robust narrative, there you'll notice there's text reaffirming the Sustainable Rights Ordinance and advancing through actions citywide goals to achieve water self-sufficiency, zero waste, and carbon neutrality. Action 1.1.3, demonstrate potential to increase species biodiversity and canopy coverage in accordance with the Urban Forest Master Plan in existing parks and open spaces. Action 1.2.2, develop a CIP, Capital Improvement Program, refurbishment plan to address maintenance of high-use amenities, including general site components, and determine opportunities to integrate sustainable alternatives. Action 2.1.8, integrate cultural landscapes within new parks and identify opportunities to expand restoration, preservation, and rewilding. I think this is one more page on these recommendations. Action 2.1.14, evaluate project scope against sustainability administrative instruction. Action 3.6, add more community gardens and farms. Action 5.1.4, study the feasibility of establishing a minimum of one street segment within each neighborhood as a park street, removing vehicular traffic, integrating landscape and amenities. Action 7.2.1, establish a training and continued education program in sustainable management and maintenance best practices for staff. Action 7.4, create a landscape vision plan. A little bit about a landscape vision plan. This gets into the particulars about essentially design guidelines when it comes to park and open space design. We don't currently have one. We have a park and beach maintenance and performance standards, which discusses how to maintain, how to operate parks in a manner that is safe and produces an environment that feels comfortable and safe for visitors. But we don't have a document that really coalesces all the preferences and thoughts on what to integrate within our parks. So establishing a landscape vision plan will take this plan to a more specific level where we identify opportunities of particular furniture selections, material typologies, heights and clearances, etc. So when it comes to creating a landscape vision plan, pre-selecting component alternatives based on sustainability factors defined by the Office of Sustainability and the Environment and maintenance defined by the Public Landscape Division will help to advance citywide resilience initiatives while alleviating maintenance pressures associated with repairs and replacement practices. One thing that we really wanted to address in this vision plan is, again, it's about how we move forward, but we need a solid base. We have 30 parks within our system, and over the last 2 years, we've been conducting a conditions assessment of our parks to understand how much it costs to maintain our existing parks and facilities. Now, it's a big number, and I've been championing how we get more money to address these park needs. It's very difficult at this time, which is why I'm already currently working on grant opportunities associated with these elements. But in short, we went through this effort to understand 5, 10, and 20-year work plans to address these maintenance elements. I will just give you a bit of a ballpark. The 5-year work plan to address all the amenities and components within our park. Components are the elements that make up an amenity. For example, a playground is an amenity. A component within a playground is the surfacing, the equipment, the benches, the landscape. The 5-year work plan is about $40 million. 10-year work plan is about 26, 20 years about 23. What we don't take care of in that 5-year work plan just rolls over to the 10-year. What doesn't get fixed in the 10-year rolls over into the 20-year. So we're talking about exponential costs associated with just maintaining our existing parks. So that's something that we have to be very forward thinking about when we're planning the future parks, so that we're not overburdening our network such that we're creating new parks just to have to maintain even more without the money to do it. So what's next? We want to utilize this vision to help define projects while referencing this vision as City as Habitat. We want to validate the project process utilizing the vision. We want to implement the project and validate the outcome and operations against this vision in order to report and establish a new benchmark for City as Habitat. We want to utilize our projects as a way to tell us where we were and how we're going to move forward beyond that. Again, this idea of the foreseeable future, we have Memorial Park expansion currently in the design process. I believe schematic design will be presented to council in December of this year. And we're currently within the airport conversion planning process. I think we're targeting early 26 to go back to council. With the addition of the new city manager, he wanted us to take a little bit of a breath so he can get brought up to speed, so that once we understand the schedule a bit more, you'll see a lot more social media push on what the next steps are. But again, foreseeable future. We know these are coming online, though the airport, as an example, may be multi-generational. We know that it's 2028 is our closest earmark. So thinking about that idea of just to get to the county average of 134 additional acres, airport 192. Once that comes online and incrementally, we'll start to hack away at that county average. And again, that foreseeable future, we want to think beyond that. We want to be able to give us to a point where we establish a number, again, have the beach as our back pocket, add that back in, and get into that sweet spot of that 6 to 10 acres. Again, just those goals. We want to enable open space to grow with the city, position the city to respond quickly and responsibly to opportunities that enhance our parks as setting for habitat. We want to support water self-sufficiency, zero waste, and carbon neutrality, maintain an open dialogue with the community on nature advocacy, and reaffirm the Sustainable Rights Ordinance. I will be going to Planning Commission this Wednesday, and then in October, towards the end of the month, at Arts Commission, and then Santa Monica Aquatics Advisory Committee, and on October 28th of this year, taking this plan to council. In that staff report, I will include a narrative about the comments that were received at each one of these boards and commissions and committee meetings, and presents recommendations on any updates based on those comments. So the council will see the same plan you have all seen, but also see the recommendations coming out of that process. So topics for recommended action: understanding support to confirm a park acreage per 1,000 residents, understand the commission's position on natural grass versus artificial turf, and understand the commission's support for the vision plan and its presentation to council. And that is all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Good presentation. We'll open the floor to commissioners for questions.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I have two questions, one kind of technical. In the county figure that you gave us, do you know if the county counts Griffith Park, the whole thing, as parkland?
Typically they don't. So that's a good question. I was just looking into this because I live in Leimert Park, which is adjacent to Kenneth Hahn as an example. They do not, because those are regional destinations. And when it comes, and again, similar to the beach, it's not every city has the ability to get to Griffith Park. Not every city has the ability to get to Baldwin Hills and Kenneth Hahn. So if they were to include those numbers, it would drastically skew the acreage. So this looks mostly at the...
Right. And there's plenty of Griffith Park you can't get to.
Yeah,
unless you're
exactly.
mountain lion. Secondly, I know the city's broke.
Yes.
So having that in mind and the sort of the ideal plan that you showed us, what could we expect to happen in terms of fixing the current parks and looking for additional parks in the next couple of years?
So my biggest charge coming out of this plan is finding those grants to address those needs. The other component of this is that preparedness aspect of things. Like a lot of these things that we now have the conditions assessment, which we now know the value of some of these costs. And we also we're trying to establish more connections with the industry to understand like a fix at a particular park. What's that cost going to be? Because what I've noticed happening is that in this gap of time where there was no senior park planner, there was no the understanding of what those costs were and the coordination with public landscape. It was harder because there was fewer people. And so now what we're trying to do is really coalesce and find ways to more efficiently address those fixes. So rather than a Band-Aid here and a Band-Aid here, my work is really about communicating with public landscape to understand this is a problem here. where else is it a problem? How do we take what little money we do have and try to really fix more holistically so we get some cost savings in amount of work, so that way we're attacking more of the problem at once. We currently have different funding sources within our city now for parks, but because of developments going on pause, the funnel of money to address acquisition and expansion is kind of at a halt in a way. But there is money there. Like this particular process, as an example, was funded with the development impact fee. But with my background, I was able to do this myself rather than use all that CIP money. And so that money would go back into the parks because I felt that was probably a better service to kind of figure out ways to think about our overall park system. So I wish there was a definitive answer of like, we have this much money in the pipeline. It's more about being strategic to find the right money so that it can go to the right things. And when it comes to this accountability aspect of this plan, putting us in a position where we know, like the condition assessment helps us evaluate how much all these things cost, working with different departments to understand the priorities for recreation, things that bring about the biggest community benefit, putting those to the top of the list so that we can make sure that program doesn't go offline, and then figuring out the mechanisms to be able to draft a compelling story as to why we need particular grant funding, not only grants, but also within the city to say, City Council, we need more money for this, or Public Works, we need to figure out a way to get more money to that, and this is why. Does that help answer your question?
Ashley?
Okay, I've got a bunch of questions. So, how much rewilding have we done? Has there been any progress in rewilding anything in the parks to natural habitat?
No, which is why that's on the list. And in my pedigree of before coming to this city, I worked on a project for a campus overall master plan, and particular within that vision's goal was to reduce grass where grass wasn't being utilized to help in those rewilding efforts. So a lot of that action came from understanding that, there are areas where grass is just grass to be grass without any opportunity to take advantage of the opportunity to rewild and restore, because that's something, being that it was a parallel project and being part of that project process with the airport conversion, we understood that rewilding and preservation is a really big priority. And finding the next level from this plan, again, with that accountability, is identifying the primary areas that have the greatest opportunity for rewilding so that we can identify those areas and put a dollar amount to it. And then we can start to really position ourselves to ask for grants that are about rewilding and restoration. For example, currently I'm working on 2 grants with Measure A for recreation, development, recreation, and planning and design. They have different grants in different cycles that look specifically at preservation, rewilding. So once we are prepared to understand and present a compelling story that Santa Monica has all this acreage that has been identified as opportunities for rewilding, here's where they all are. We want to use this amount for this area, this amount for this area, this amount for this area, and really be very definitive about the next steps to try to get those opportunities built.
Are we currently planting any specific plants to help bring biodiversity just in certain corridors or sections of various parks?
So that's another great question, and really great on timing, because again, getting back to that landscape vision plan, which really gets into the specifics, Public Landscape has a list of plants that they know work, that they know are successful. What we are now working on is a more robust list on natives, adaptive plantings, that we can then reference when new projects come online as a baseline of these are the things that we know work and are aligned with our sustainability goals and our identity as Santa Monica, and not to relinquish any new designers or consultants from coming on board to say, what about this? It starts the dialogue, because right now you have to ask. We want this plan, we want that vision plan, that landscape vision plan to be the thing we're just like, here you go, and start there. So that way we know that there are particular plants that achieve the goals, and we start there first. And then anything new, it has to go through a process with not only Public Works, but specifically Public Landscape.
Okay. Do you know how many community gardens we have in the city?
4, right? 5. No, sorry. 7 now. 7 now.
And that doesn't include like the small private ones. I know there's Growing Hope Gardens, I think on Virginia. There's a couple little ones. Have you guys? No. They're really incredible. They're hidden little oases.
I've been in close coordination with the Community Gardens Advisory Committee and Teague on kind of the next steps. We have great precedent currently with 19th Street and the most recent implementation at Miles. 2 completely different sides of the spectrum into how we develop a community garden. One is very CIP oriented, like a lot of things that go into it. The one at Miles was literally, hey, we have a reed improvement program, Teague. What can you do to get us a community garden before the state of the city? In 2 to 3 weeks, he got his group together, and now there's a community garden there. Low cost, high impact. So I've already spoken to Teague and the Community Garden Committee on this element of adding more community gardens and farms. And again, the next stage is a community garden strategic plan to understand where are those opportunities within the network that we see can be a very low cost, high impact intervention. Because again, when we have lessons learned on 19th Street and the Miles Community Garden, do we want to have something that's very, very robust, or do we just want to sprinkle them throughout the city so that more people have access to smaller community gardens?
So I'd love to put you in contact with a gal who runs a community garden, and she has found a way to get the small little lots that you can't develop on because of zoning or various other issues and get them donated, and turns them into gardens and farms where you can go and grow all your own food and, take vegetables home. It's an amazing program. It doesn't cost much, so I'd love to put you in contact with her. When we're looking at the population and the acreage, are we factoring in projected population growth into these?
Only to 5 years. That's pretty, with working with the consultant who does this for hundreds of cities, that's usually the target, because it's the trends in development. You could reference what's in the pipeline and kind of get a general understanding of where utilizing historic data as well and how the city grows. It gives us a pretty decent range.
And I apologize for the next 2 questions, but I'm going off of what I hear all the time when I'm in the parks, which is safety and a lot of concern from a lot of parents and how decisions are being made around that. I know we're an environmental commission, but it seems like a good time to ask that question of how that's evaluated and decisions are made around kind of the strategy and park management.
So thank you, Tricia, for being here, because I want to speak specifically to that example with Douglas Park playground reconstruction. I came on board with the city around the time, I think it was a week or 2 before that first community event happened. And what we all collectively learned in Public Works from that process is communication with the neighborhoods is the first step. And it's the first step even before an RFP goes out, because the RFP process, the request for proposals from design consultants to determine, to understand what it's going to cost to build a park or a particular component of a park, has to be driven by what the boots on the ground are telling us. We are currently in the process of doing the next playground, which is Virginia Avenue Park. And the first step before we even finish writing the RFP is having a community meeting to understand what are the things you feel are working, what are not working, so that we're guiding the decisions. We're not making them for them. Another part of this vision plan as a whole was speaking to each neighborhood organization to understand what they feel they need in their neighborhood, because it comes down to fiscal responsibility at that point. Because there's been a lot of times where things were handed to the neighborhoods and say, here's this thing. We wanted to avoid that. We wanted to make sure that things that were coming online were things that they know they needed, and having those open lines of communication to do so. Now, I think another component of your question might be safety. And so
That's the majority of my question.
yes, it's hard. And, we had a recent conversation about how safety had been done in the past. There was park rangers previously. Those have now given way to public service officers who kind of do parks and a lot of other things. And so the hope would be that as we move forward, we can start to re-engage that type of service. But also myself, in working with RAD, Recreation and Arts Department, is understanding like what more can we do in these parks to get eyes on the park, so that people feel that the community takes ownership of the park and kind of pushes the negative energy out of the park, and people feel more safe and comfortable. Similar, as an example, is the recent activation at Reed. Is that we as Public Works worked really hard with the city departments to get Miles online, to get the fence around Miles, to kind of create safety around the community garden. That gave way to activation that was all in concert with the work that RAD was doing to activate the park on a more consistent basis. And you see the Gather and Grow series happening throughout the summer to kind of really ignite that. And I've also in communication with the Arts Commission is yet another plan on my end to work on kind of what exists at the parks that can be publicized to the community. Like, for example, Palisades Park has this location, and this location that has this many outlets, that can hold this many people. It has adjacent parking. It has all these particular elements within the park that can support a program. Because it kind of has to happen by reaching out to RAD, and we want to have the ability to have that exist somewhere where anyone who has an idea can look at that document and say, oh, I kind of live in this neighborhood. I want to do something a little bit bigger than a block party, but I want to do it at a park. This park has these amenities, a restroom, an open area to have food, and et cetera. So that, again, that reinforces that notion of more community at the park means more safety, because it comes down to a budget decision about adding more policing, more rangers. So we want to kind of try to flip the script a bit and try to put more people and more activity in the parks to kind of balance that until something more definitive happens.
And Reed Park's amazing. I personally take advantage of 2 parks at least every single day, and so I'm very, very grateful for them. My last question is, are there still needle distribution programs in our parks?
I will have to find out about that.
Okay.
And I can ask that question and get back to you.
Okay. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I had just 2 questions. One of them was with regard to the funding or the costs, really, of O&M that you mentioned. And do we have a source in place right now? Is there like a development impact fee if a developer wants to come in and build, apartment building with 200 units? Are they assessed a fee that is earmarked for parks based on the anticipated number of people that would be occupying that apartment, that adds to the overall population, that decreases the allocation of park acreage per total population?
Yes, we do have that. So I'll break down a couple of our different sources. So the development impact fee is what exactly you're speaking about. It's a percentage of development cost that a developer pays into a fund that goes specifically to acquisition and expansion of new parkland to offset the demand that a new development is imposing on the city. Those funds differ from project to project, and it's based on the unit mix. So it's like how many studios, how many 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, et cetera. We are currently working on a new RFP to redo that assessment so that we can understand what the recommendation is for those amounts, because what helps significantly in doing those studies is understanding how much it costs to maintain our parks now, which is the condition assessment. We know that now. Understanding what our inventory is currently, we have that now. And understanding what we have down the pipeline, our foreseeable future. So that I'll use an example of what kind of created the catalyst for wanting to take a new look at that, it's called a nexus study, is the airport conversion planning process. That is going to be a significant park increase, not only from acreage, but amenity, costs, etc. This phase of the planning process comes with a cost estimate. So we will have estimated costs associated with maintaining existing park amenities, which have a decreased level of service because there's more people using them. We will know what our park acreage is relative to our population, and we will know what our foreseeable future is going to cost us. All of that will weigh into the recalibration of what that impact fee will be based on new development. Another source when it comes to our parks is a CIP that was projected for the next 5 years is about $250,000. It's called the Park Improvement Program. That money is set aside to address particular elements coming out of that 5, 10-year, and 20-year work plan. We've already been implementing some of that money to do bulb replacements in our fields and upgrades to surfacing at our playgrounds, various elements to the first question, address a lot of the same thing across multiple parks to get some value add. We also have the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG fund, which is particular areas of the city. That is another source where if we define a project for a park within those areas, we can work with that administration to kind of get some money set aside for that as well.
So residents are currently, we're not assessed a fee or a tax that would go specifically to park maintenance. Has the city looked into that to see if that would be something that the residents would support?
Specifically to that, no, but we are looking into Recreation and Arts Department is looking, because RAD works more closely with the Rec and Park Commission. RAD is looking at how we reignite it's a sort of friends of, if you will, of parks. And it did exist in the past within the city, but it never really kind of gained the momentum it needed. But Jenny and her team are really excited about kind of reigniting this to really create a dedicated fund that goes to parks, specifically those high value amenities that create program, so that we can kind of have a fund that is about acquisition and expansion, one that's about maintenance, and another one about just making what we have even better, whether it's through more amenities or more well-defined program areas.
Okay. So my second question had to do with your Park Street. You talked about turning one street into a park. Was that within a neighborhood or within a district? So would that be within Ocean Park District or Sunset Park?
We want to study at least one area within each neighborhood. So there's
What are you defining as a neighborhood?
it's
Is
like
it-
Sunset Park,
Okay.
Ocean Park, Noma, Wilmot,
Got it.
Pico.
Okay. So when you say you want to study one street, I mean, or would you be asking for the residential
Oh, yeah.
buy-in? Yeah.
Totally. So what we want to do is definitely figure out where, and a lot of it will be myself working with mobility to understand like where are those areas where, like I noticed one of the areas I want to bring to their attention that I noticed was near SMC, where they've already kind of closed that street to, they've kind of closed it off. There's a sidewalk and a turnaround. So is there any ability to kind of take, I don't know, 200 square feet of that area and expand that roundabout such that it's more green? Or is there areas within the city that most of the residents use the alley to get into their garage, and the street itself is just, if we can reduce it a bit and create a turnaround somewhere further up down the road, does that help alleviate? But that type of thing is definitely, once we get to a point where we understand where the opportunities are, it has to be a neighborhood discussion, because those types of decisions affect so many people that it's an idea that came about because people will notice that, if we can add more park and it can be on our street, even better.
So is part of the vision that others from within Ocean Park would travel to that specific park street to use it as a park? Or is the vision more just the immediate residents within a so many block radius?
I think that's why another reason why the outreach is so important is to understand, like, is this an opportunity that you want in your neighborhood? Because as a park, it's going to attract lots of people. And if someone is looking for a nice quiet place to read and this little pocket park provides that, they may walk an extra 4 blocks to do that. But do they want that? We don't know. And so we just have to ask the question. But what we want to do is get beyond just the idea. We want to have something concrete so people can react to it. And so that's where my background comes into play, working as a landscape designer for 18 years, is being able to work with the community and sketch these ideas in front of them to say, this is kind of what we're thinking. Does that resonate? Or is this something you don't want? Or is it just, it could be as simple as just adding more, a space for people to park their bikes, or some amenity that supports mobility. We don't know, but it's just bringing those ideas forward so people can react to them.
Thank you.
I'll add my thanks for a great presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about the sort of geographic distribution of open space, because most of the numbers you gave us were city averages.
Yes.
And so how are we doing in terms of, first off, how do you guys think about, distribution of open space? So like each neighborhood has an appropriate amount. How do you measure that? And then how does it, look in your plan? For instance, the neighborhoods are currently low. Are they an emphasis? If the city densifies along transit corridors, how does that work with parkland? And then, since the real big chunk is going to be the great park at the airport, which is in like one place, is that something in your plan that you work with mobility, trying to make sure that all the kids can get there on their bikes? I mean, how do you think about adding a big chunk in one particular corner of the city in terms of the geographic equity of space?
Yeah, and that's a great question. The areas immediately adjacent to Memorial Park, as an example, Pico neighborhood, from that portion north, that's where the high to very high need range starts to happen in terms of parks. We have Douglas, Reed, really small Park Drive Park, Shader Park, Euclid Park, and then a bulk of the green space kind of happens along Ocean, and then makes its way up into a little bit of the Pico neighborhood, but then moves out to kind of Sunset Park on that south side. So that's where like a lot of those conversations about park streets came into play when we start to think about those areas in Wilmont and Noma, because though they have great streets, well shaded, big trees, those are the particular locations where we'll have to look at the acquisition more than anything else, because there isn't a lot of open space that's already kind of like a natural open space, aside from we have identified the median, San Vicente median as an example. But in terms of like a lot that comes online, does it make sense for the city to look into acquisition of that lot to create a new park? Because these areas have a great walking loop, biking network. It would be great to have a hub where everyone can go to. And so we, at the beginning of, or the end of last summer, another grant opportunity came into play, which we now know a little bit more about the specifics on, is through Measure A. It was an acquisition grant. So we had to identify and work an agreement with a property owner that says, hey, this is a lot that exists. The city is interested in buying it. We have this grant opportunity available that will give us X amount of dollars to help buy that land. We need an agreement in place that you understand where we're coming from, that we want to purchase this land, but we are just waiting for. There's a lot of components with that. So that's a route that we're also looking into tracking, so that we know when these things come online, we're ready for them, and to have those discussions early, because those particular grants are like a very, very long process because of all the different agreements in place. But then to your point, yes, it's very much working with mobility when it comes to projects like the airport conversion project, because it is on the very southeast corner of the city. It also is a location, West LA, Palms, Mar Vista, all those city of LA cities are classified as high or very high need in general. And they don't have a lot of parks, but it also puts more onus on us to understand how we get the rest of our city to that southeast corner. I know they just recently finished the Stewart bike lanes, more bike lanes on Stewart. That is something we are already looking into when it comes to the airport conversion planning framework, is that if Stewart is coming down, Stewart on the south side of the airport on the city of LA, it's looking like, based on their old community plans, that they want to get people north, south, east. So how can what we do influence what they are currently working on, because they're currently working on their community plan updates as well. So it's really thinking about long term, and again, to your point, access, because we want to make sure people have the opportunity to get there safe. It might even become what happens on Ocean Park to kind of get people to get through Ocean Park a little bit more safely and easily? Or does it become such that our network is even more great in 20 years that we need to have some kind of dedicated, I don't know, bus shuttle routes that kind of get people from different areas of in the city to take advantage of those parks? You're welcome.
Thank you. Tony, did you say you joined the city in 2024?
Yes, in April.
Can I just acknowledge how much you have taken on, and that you are presenting so much information, and I really appreciate how much work has gone into that.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to acknowledge that. And yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a few questions. First of all, I would love to comment on the Friends of the Parks. That I think is a great thing to reignite for sure. I'm wondering if you've had any conversations about expanding partnerships to further expand the microforests, the 2 microforests that have gone in Santa Monica, because I feel like with something like the Malibu Foundation, I don't know if they would be willing to further fund things like this, but I know it was just kind of an experimental thing, right? But it's doing really well there in Olympic, and if it could go up and down Olympic, that would be an incredible rewilding. So that was one thing I was wondering. Do you have any?
A lot of this outreach has also, what I have been appreciative about this outreach is that now people have someone to send that stuff to.
Okay.
So any information you can send to me that
Okay.
if there's a contact that I could reach out to help understand kind of the breadth of that opportunity.
Okay.
Because I like working with numbers and being able to.
Okay, I'll send Dean to you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just joking. I mean, I know Dean has it on his list already, but okay, the next thing I wanted to ask is just so that I understand. So in order to get to the 3.3 acres per 1,000 people, we need 134 acres. And were you saying in order to get to the 5 acres per 1,000, we need an additional 165 or 165 overall?
Oh, no.
No.
Let me see if I had that in here.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So to get to 5 acres per 1,000, we need an additional 292 acres.
Okay, so it was on top of that. Okay.
Yeah. And to get.
Yeah, plus
Yep.
100. That's a lot. Okay.
Yeah. And so that again looks to, again, beyond the foreseeable future. And that looks to opportunities with reconnecting communities and freeway capping, finding those nooks and crannies, and really thinking about how we expand and kind of depave areas of the city.
Okay, thanks. And then the last thing, I want to kind of go back to this landscape vision plan that you mentioned. And Ashley kind of touched upon it with the kinds of species that might be planted there. And I'm just wondering if you've thought about producing like a species guidance plan and what I'm thinking of is the California Native Plant Society has on their webpage like lists of California natives that thrive in various microhabitats.
Yes.
And it would be I feel like it would be a great resource for landscaping for the city, but also perhaps homeowners might find it helpful to I don't want to plant another fig tree. Maybe I want to, I'm sick of these figs. So maybe I could plant a sycamore, or what else is there out there that I could plant? And I feel like that would be a really nice resource for the public as well as for the city.
Yes, and so that is another layer to that conversation we're currently having with public landscape is not only we are a finite source of that information, especially when there are other organizations that is their passion, that is their career. And so pointing to those as opportunities for people to learn and engage. And what we're trying to understand is how far this landscape vision plan goes in terms of is it another, because there's right now it's a balance of not only maintenance and performance standards for employees of public landscape, but it's also design guidelines, because public landscape interfaces with consultants, because we as architecture services within public works, when we have projects and they have landscape and trees, we reach out to public landscape to understand do these jive with what you're thinking or not. So it might end up being such that we kind of pull the maintenance and performance standards out of it, and then we keep it as a landscape design guidelines, at which point then we can kind of roll that in and create another process like this, but specific to that element, where it might be a little bit of a tighter kind of review process, because it could be rec and parks, and it could be sustainability, and maybe that's it in urban forest, and then we move forward with it from there.
Okay, thank you. One more question. An item, I don't even know how to say this, double little I. The recommended action is to support a motion to demonstrate the commission position on natural grass versus artificial turf. Are we talking about our commission or the commission on rec and parks?
Our commission.
Our commission.
Right.
Okay, so I don't need to ask him what his position is. Okay.
That'll
All right.
be on September 25th at RPC.
I see. Okay. All right.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. And I know Judy wanted to jump in, and then I want to get to these three questions that you're asking us so that we can wrap it up. But go ahead, Judy.
I'm trying to represent the pier a little bit tonight, and I'm wondering if you're counting the park by the pier as a park. And there has been discussion over the years about having a designated park area around the entrance to the pier. And I just wondered if that was part of what you're thinking about. My other question has to do with, are you counting the Dune project as a park?
Okay, when it comes to the beach and pier, the principle that to ideate Santa Monica State Beach, the intent was not only that I be working on the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan, but also the Beach Master Plan. The Beach Master Plan is going to consider everything basically from, I want to say, ocean west, and really take this similar process and apply it to the beach. So things like the dune restoration is not part of this plan, but it is mentioned within the principle or within the action of ideate the Santa Monica State Beach. So within that particular principle, we've highlighted high level scope pertaining to the beach and the pier, because it's a beach and pier vision plan, so that we can then identify areas where there would be program, identify areas where there's more. Nico and I have been in communication about where the dune restorations have happened and where they are planned to happen, and how that will get rolled into a beach and pier vision plan. Because again, there's also the balance of adding more park space to the beach and understanding what areas are more utilized than others. There's areas that are already designated as just beach area, just so people can just hang out. And then there are areas of the beach that are dedicated for volleyball or different programs like surf lessons and whatnot. So all of that would be part of a beach and pier vision plan.
One of the issues I think is going to be during the Olympics time and any other time when there's a whole bunch of people visiting Santa Monica, is that the dune projects will be attractive to them at the beach, and that they're just picking up on what you were saying about safety, to make sure that there is a plan that preserves those dune areas, even if there are loads of people wanting to walk through it.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Tony. That was a fantastic presentation, and I really commend you on all the work that's gone into this. I haven't read every page of the report, but what I have read looks like it's very well thought out and is together. And I recognize you're asking us three things tonight. One is to support a motion to confirm park acreage per 1,000 resident goal, which I love the fact that you're actually doing that, coming from I was around at the very beginning of the Sustainable City Plan, and that's what we incorporated. We're setting aggressive goals and targets, and that helped us get to where we are right now. And so I really think it's great that you're including that. Also, demonstrate our commission position on grass versus artificial turf, and then a motion to approve and support the vision plan, which I probably think we all do very much based on the comments I've heard. But I wanted to ask you, because I know in talking to some staff that there has been some work. We've discussed artificial turf at certain times in the past here, but we haven't spoken about it recently. But I know that city staff has been kind of addressing that and looking into sustainability considerations. And could you give us any kind of insight into where you're at right now internally with that?
I could give you some. We're not 100% done with that until, and we're going to have to be about a week and a half.
Right.
But the biggest things that are coming forward are, especially from what I've heard in the community outreach thus far, is that natural grass is the preferred, and that even comes from the point of view of like field sports. There's preference for grass, but they want to understand that the city can maintain it to a level that does not impact program currently, because the other aspect of it comes down to playability and wanting to make sure that if we have natural grass, that the maintenance can be such that we are not losing like a whole season of program, or understand where is that program going to go while a field is getting returfed or maintained, or what steps will RAD take in terms of program allocation to kind of balance the high volume and low volume intensity uses. For example, diamond sports is a little less intense on the natural grass, whereas soccer, rugby is more intense. So balancing kind of what happens where and when will be another component of that. And we've also had discussions about this idea of phasing out. There was an I don't know if any of you had seen the article from Beverly Hills about them phasing out artificial turf within the next 15 years. And so looking at those opportunities as well and how those affect playability and kind of targets beyond that.
Okay, so you're working on it, it sounds like, and you're looking into it, and I'm assuming Office of Sustainability is looking into the sustainability aspects of not only the health and safety impacts related to artificial turf, but also the fact that there is a cost benefit of having artificial turf versus natural grass, and which one of those is more expensive. The reason I'm bringing that up, just for the folks in the audience, is we haven't really discussed that in detail as a commission, so it's difficult to give you here's where we're at with this.
That's totally fine, and that these recommendations were coming out of what we've been hearing, and that people have been doing that. So.
Right, and we've all gotten lots of letters from folks that are really passionate about this. They've done a lot of research, and they're recommending let's get away from plastic. And I really respect that and feel like that's a good way to go too. But I also wanted to just acknowledge that we haven't, as a group, really dug into this, and we've talked about putting it on an agenda and having a lot more detail, which I believe we will, but I think we can make a good recommendation tonight. What I would recommend right now, and I'm just going to kind of lay out a motion that maybe we can all modify and then vote on, would be that we pass a motion in strong support of approving the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan. So we're asking council to support that, because it looks like it's a fantastic plan and very well thought out. That we recommend a goal of at least 5 acres per 1,000 residents, which sounds like a pretty aggressive goal, but as we've seen, we need aggressive goals. So I would definitely support that. And then as far as natural grass versus artificial turf, I would be willing to make some kind of a recommendation regarding, really from this commission, we want what is most sustainable. So we would recommend that the city go towards the healthiest and most long-term affordable and playable options for our parks. So basically, we want to maximize the use of our parks and our sports fields and maximize public health while we're doing that. And go ahead.
I also add, though, the waste production, like the lifespan of the turf and the recyclability or the
Right.
basically like landfill situation with it, because I feel like that's a huge part of the sustainability puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've all been told, 10 or 15 years ago when we talked to folks about artificial turf is it's going to save water, it's going to save money, it's going to do all of this, but actually, as we've been looking at it, it's not doing that at all. So I don't have data in front of me right now, but the recommendation from our group could be we want the city to go with the most sustainable option, waste, water, energy, playability, and public health. And climate friendly.
I'll second that. Can I ask 2 quick questions?
Sure.
The acreage goals, that obviously we know the benefits of having parks and health and all those things, but is there a benefit if we have so many acreage per person that there's funding from the state for park maintenance? Like, is there anything like that when we're talking about acreage, or is this just kind of the community benefit, the health benefit, the individual benefit?
It's mostly the latter.
Will we have an opportunity to dive into the turf issue at some later meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we know what percentage
And
of parks?
we asked to have
are-
it agendized. We couldn't get anybody tonight to come and talk to us about it.
We don't have a future agenda item on the agenda, so are we doing that or not?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Has to be assessed putting a future.
Yeah, I don't have it this time, but I will do it next time.
Right.
Do we have a percentage of what parks are currently using turf? Do we know the?
Yeah, well, percentage, no, but there's the only places that the parks are using artificial turf is the historic Belmar Park Field, Airport Park Field, and there's a small patch at, I think it's Beach Green. It's a little rectangle next to Muscle Beach.
Are there any plans to use it in any future park?
No.
Okay. So we're not, by not being more aggressive than you said right now, we're not missing an opportunity to avoid.
Was that?
I think that was it.
There was like too many double negatives.
Yeah.
But there's no development that is proposing to use turf in the.
Currently, no.
That's what he said.
Right.
Okay, great. Right.
Ashley, did you second that? Okay. Otherwise, I would.
Is there other discussion
Yeah,
or
I'll second.
questions? So our motion is to strongly support approval of the Parks and Recreation Vision Plan, recommend including a goal of 5 acres per 1,000 residents, and support a motion to for the most sustainable options with regard to waste, water, public health, climate, and water. Yeah, so I said
Playability.
and playability, yeah, for future sports fields.
Can you speak into the mic, Susan?
Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Shouldn't we also include like retrofitting with that too? So it's not just future parks, but Okay.
I hate to do this, but I have one more question for Tony.
Sounds good.
I,
Do it.
okay. Early in your presentation, you mentioned that we have this very large influx on a daily basis of people from outside the city who are not residents. Is there any way we can capture that to make an argument that we need more park space and use it in grants or something?
Yes, so that part, I mean, for the very near term, that particular fact is, I've already included in narratives for the 2 of the grants that we're working on now. But it's also going to be a component that is integrated into that Nexus study. So how...
And so then my question would be, do we want to add something to that regard in our motion? Or does it matter?
I don't know that it necessarily matters
Okay.
unless you strongly feel like
No.
you have something you want to add to it.
I have no idea. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
Because I just don't know how this type of thing works.
I think what we're doing, and I know a number of other commissions have made similar motions that ultimately will be conveyed to council, and then council's going to do whatever council wants to do. So we're making a recommendation saying we like the fact that there's a lot of sustainability and focus and detail in this plan, and that we want a strong goal for expanding the parks, and that we want the most sustainable sports fields that we can get, basically. Right.
Do you want to take a vote?
Yeah, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor? Aye. So that passes unanimously. And that's us. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for hanging with us.
Not a problem.
Okay, and we have, nope, we have one administrative item before we adjourn. And as we mentioned, we really would like to agendize a deeper discussion of artificial turf and sustainability at a future meeting. So if you can pass that
I will
up
make
to
a
Jen.
note of that and pass it on.
Congestion pricing.
Congestion pricing?
Yeah, we've talked about that off and on, but you have this influx of individuals who are coming to utilize resources that they're entitled to utilize. But if that could be captured in some manner to help support O&M of the resources that they are benefiting by using, that they're using, and they derive a benefit from the use of that. So, I don't know what it would be called, probably not congestion pricing. There's a fee to park, but maybe there should be a fee associated with O&M.
So what are we going to discuss as this group? I mean, do you want to bring a consultant in to talk about that, or?
I don't know if someone in Public Works, landscaping, if Tony has thought about that, I wouldn't know.
I'm sure we could find someone to talk about.
Right. Okay, well, maybe
Okay,
that's.
so I'm going to put a discussion about artificial turf, an in-depth discussion about artificial turf and congestion pricing and other fee possibilities. You'd like someone to come and
Or is it?
shed light on that?
I mean, what it sounds like you're talking about is generating revenue from folks who don't live in Santa Monica for the benefit of our local infrastructure.
Well, for the benefit of the resources that they're using and deriving a benefit from. Yeah. So I'm not so sure that's local infrastructure, but maybe that's what parks are considered, or the beach is considered. I don't know. But, and I know we've had discussions before about the parking fees, but I can't remember, if that all goes to the Coastal Commission or if the city gets a share of it. But regardless.
Yeah, I mean, they're called congestion fees because they're supposed to reduce congestion as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're called congestion fees, which, as you say, is probably not the best public name, but because they're supposed to reduce congestion and put people in, encourage people to take other mobility options.
Okay,
Okay, I'll take care of that.
great. Why don't we go on to the administrative item?
Is there anything we could do on
I have a quick question. I don't know, and this is kind of putting Tricia Crane on the spot, but I know she has really good presentations at your meetings, and if you had anybody that had given you a presentation on the turf that maybe would be a valuable resource for us to use, so that we have some, I'm assuming, I've been to some of your meetings and they're usually very informative, so I'm assuming you have somebody useful.
I'd be happy to make a referral to you yourself.
Sure. I was just thinking one less thing for us to sort out. Okay.
And it sounds like Rob has one more recommendation.
Is there anything we could discuss on housing? I'm not sure exactly
What
our
would you
take-
like? Well, what would you like?
But, well, I mean, it's like, what are some of the sustainability impacts, and what can the sustainability community be doing to, make sure that we achieve our housing goals? So,
That seems reasonable.
yeah, so we can probably sharpen that up if it was late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right.
Okay, excellent.
I just wanted to give you all an update. You have our September is Sustainable September month, and we've had a number of events, some of them internal. On September 9th, Sunny Wang gave a staff tour of the SWIP, the Sustainable Water Infrastructure Project. It was really exciting, and we had 7 different departments come and learn from him. He gives a really incredible tour. And at the end of September, we're sort of sandwiching Sustainable September with another tour that's going to be for the public for that same facility. People really love it, and I think Sunny and I are going to do a few of them throughout the year now. Yeah, it's really incredible, very fascinating. And we were actually there when they were cleaning the UV light, so we got to see the whole internal structure of the light, which is like the last cleaning of the water. Really incredible. And then this past weekend, we had the Sustainable Landscape Expo and Rain Barrel Distribution event at Reed Park in the new Reed Park Garden. It was really a beautiful event, very relaxed and chill. And we had about 80 people through, which was wonderful attendance. And then yesterday we tabled over at Americana in the park, which had about 300 people at Gundara Park. And then tomorrow is our Circular SoCal. It's one of our signature events for this month, a catalyst for a regenerative future. It explores the principles of circular economy with top experts and help build the future with materials. Stay in use and designs support life. So it's sort of an expert high-level discussion about circularity in the built environment, focusing on materials, building, and then municipal. There'll be 3 panels, and we highly recommend that you come. If you're not already registered, please come and talk to me, and I will get you in. We have 185 people registered right now. So please come to some of our events. Next week is the California Coastal Cleanup Day, and then we're having dosas, waffles, and a work day at the garden.
Clove, could I interrupt you just for a second? Coastal Cleanup Day is on Saturday, so please don't miss it. It's a huge,
yeah, it's here. It
hugely
says Saturday.
important.
Yeah, September 20th, Saturday.
You said it was next week, so I just wanted to be sure.
I meant next weekend.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And then the compost giveaways also. So there's a lot of things happening on September 20th that you can enjoy. So thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so we are adjourned at 8:46.
Thank you,
Well done,
everyone. Please
everybody.
enjoy
Thank you.
some refreshments, and see you next time.
All right.
Thank you.